Hi, and welcome to DrupalBrief. This is an AI-generated summary of another video, podcast, or blog post. If you want to learn more about what's being discussed here, then please go check out the source. This podcast is produced by the team at DrupalForge. DrupalForge is the new #1 open-source development and hosting platform. It has all the functionality of the expensive platforms, but at very affordable prices. If you're looking for a new hosting provider, contact us for a demo before you get locked in. Okay, that's it. Make sure to click subscribe, and here we go.
Welcome to the deep dive. You flagged the latest issue of the Weekly Drop, which is, well, pretty essential reading if you're following Drupal.
It really is, yeah.
So for this deep dive, we're going to zero in on the interesting bits, the stuff that really matters, specifically for you listening.
Right.
Think of it like your express route,
Yeah.
getting the key developments in Drupal right now, but without having to wade through all the technical details yourself.
Exactly. And what's great about the Weekly Drop, I think, is it gives us that that bird's eye view. It's comprehensive. We're not just looking at code changes. We're seeing DrupalCon buzz, community talk, new tools popping up. It paints a really full picture of the Drupal ecosystem.
It really does. Okay, so let's get into it. Maybe start with the foundations, the updates to Drupal core itself.
Yeah, sounds good.
Now, there were a few technical shifts mentioned. One that kind of jumped out at me was splitting something called field storage add form into a field storage add controller and the field storage add form. Okay, so for folks like us, maybe not coding Drupal daily, what's a practical upshot? What does that separation really mean?
Well, it's interesting because this kind of refactoring, even though it's very much under the hood, right?
Right.
It often points to a more mature system, better organized. Think about it like when you add a field to your website, like a new image field or something.
Okay.
Drupal needs to handle the logic of how it gets added and also the actual form you interact with.
The bit you see.
Exactly. So by separating those things, the how into the controller, the what into the form, the code gets cleaner, more modular.
And that helps how?
Well, ultimately, for you, it probably means a more stable platform. More adaptable, maybe, in the long run, because, cleaner code is just easier to maintain, less likely to have weird issues when things get updated down the line.
Okay, that makes sense. Sort of making the engine run smoother, more reliably behind the scenes, even if you don't directly see it changing. Got it.
Yeah, precisely.
Now, another update. It talks about a new set properties config action for configuration entities.
Yeah.
And it sounds like simple config update is being phased out for this. That sounds like a shift in how Drupal manages its own settings. What's the significance there? Is that a big deal?
It could be, yeah. I mean, connecting it to the bigger picture, this move towards set properties likely means a push for more rigorous config management, more controlled.
Configuration entities.
Yeah.
Those like the site's blueprints, right? Content types, roles.
Exactly. All that core structure and behavior stuff. So introducing a more specific action like set properties and getting rid of a more general one, it suggests Drupal's aiming for maybe greater precision. Better auditing of changes, perhaps.
Right.
For you, that could translate to a more predictable website, more stable, especially if you're in a complex setup where config changes need careful handling. It's about, reducing the chance of unintended side effects when settings get tweaked.
Interesting. More control, more predictability, always welcome when you're relying on a website, definitely. Now, this next one, it's about SDC, single directory components, how they handle their style sheets. Apparently, they're now grouped in the theme aggregate instead of default.
Right.
That sounds like it could actually influence how our websites look, maybe perform. How might this change what we actually see?
Yeah, this one's more visual, potentially. It's very likely about making sure styles load in the most effective way. SDCs, the whole point is keeping everything for a UI bit together, right? HTML, JS, CSS, all in one spot. So by moving the SDC style sheets into the theme aggregate, Drupal is probably optimizing how those specific component styles interact with your main theme's styles, your overall website look.
Oh.
So for you, as someone who cares about how the site looks, this should hopefully lead to more consistent styling, more reliable, potentially preventing those, visual clashes or making sure things look right within your chosen theme.
Right, minimizing those visual glitches that can sometimes drive you crazy. Makes perfect sense.
Thanks.
Okay, and finally, in these core updates, there's mention of a new statement-based abstract class. Now, that sounds really technical.
It is quite deep, yeah.
What's the essential takeaway for, us non-developers? Is there one?
There is, I think. It's getting into the real, engine room of Drupal, how it talks to the database.
Okay.
But in essence, this statement-based abstract class, it likely provides a more standardized way for Drupal to communicate with the database, a more robust way. Think of it like a better building block for how Drupal asks for and gets data.
So smoother data handling.
Pretty much. While you won't interact with it directly, more consistent, more reliable database interaction that contributes to the overall stability. Performance, too, just helps make sure everything runs smoothly when people are browsing or doing things on the site.
Okay, so even way down deep, it's helping build a more solid, efficient platform.
Got it.
That's the idea.
Right.
Now, let's shift gears. DrupalCon Atlanta. Sounds like it was a big one, a real hub of activity.
Oh, absolutely. DrupalCon is the event, right? For the Drupal community. And the headlines in the weekly drop really capture that buzz, the key discussions.
Yeah, I saw they had like a wrap-up, but also highlights from the initial days. Tells you it was packed right from the start.
Definitely a lot going on.
And it seems like certain themes kept surfacing. I noticed mentions of security, privacy, inclusion.
Yeah.
Especially highlighted from day 3.
Mm-hmm.
That really speaks volumes about the current priorities in the community, doesn't it? Why do you think those are so prominent right now?
That's a great question. And I think it reflects, broader trends in tech generally. Security, well, that's always critical, isn't it? Especially with online threats always evolving.
Sure.
And the privacy focus that's driven by user awareness, regulations, GDPR, all that stuff, and inclusion. That really shows the community's commitment to being welcoming, diverse, which ultimately makes the project stronger, brings in more perspectives.
That makes sense. These aren't just Drupal things. They're wider issues the community is tackling head on. I also saw attendee insights mentioned. What can we sort of glean from what people are actually taking away from an event like DrupalCon?
Oh, attendee insights are super valuable. They give you a real feel for the practical impact,
Right.
What new ideas are people buzzing about? What problems are they hoping to solve now? What connections did they make? It's a good signpost for the tangible benefits, the real world value.
Right, what stuck with people. And it sounds like contribution, the importance of contributing, was highlighted near the end. That's so core to open source, isn't it?
Absolutely fundamental contribution. And it takes so many forms, right? It's not just code. It's testing, docs, translation, organizing, helping newcomers.
All of it.
All of it. It's the engine driving Drupal. So emphasizing it on the final day, probably both recognizing the effort and encouraging more people to jump in, shape the future.
Yeah. And of course, the big keynote, Dries, the founder. There was a lot of chatter about something called ImageX.
Oh, yes, image.
That sounds like it could be a pretty significant development. Maybe for how Drupal handles images. What's the early buzz on that?
Well, Dry's keynotes often give that glimpse into the future, right?
Yeah.
Where Drupal might be heading. The excitement around ImageX definitely suggests it's a major new initiative focused on improving image handling.
And images are crucial.
Totally crucial for looks, performance, accessibility, everything. So any big steps forward there could have a huge positive impact. For developers optimizing sites, for editors managing media, everyone. We'll definitely need to keep an eye on how ImageX unfolds.
For sure. Definitely one to watch. Okay, so moving beyond the conference, the weekly drop also had articles offering different perspectives. Drop2Go, for instance. They had 13 reasons why Drupal is the best CMS for developers and IT teams.
Right?
And also 7 key arguments to convince your board to Drupal. It's pretty smart, tailoring the arguments like that.
Oh, very smart. The developer IT one probably focuses on, flexibility, scalability, the APIs, the technical strengths.
The geeky stuff.
The good geeky stuff. Whereas the board piece, that's likely hitting the business benefits, right? Security, cost effectiveness long-term, handling complex needs, the track record with big sites. It shows they really understand the different audiences.
Yeah, different hooks for different fish. Then there's Centauro announcing Commerce Kickstart 5.0 as a contributed site template. Okay, what is a contrib site template exactly? And what does it offer someone wanting to do e-commerce with Drupal?
Right, so a contrib site template. Think of it like a pre-built package. It's Drupal core plus a bunch of selected modules, all pre-configured for a specific job. In this case, building an online store with Drupal Commerce.
Like a starter kit.
Exactly, a running start. Instead of installing Drupal and then adding and configuring all the commerce bits piece by piece, Commerce Kickstart gives you that foundation. Many essential features already wired up. It can save a ton of time getting started and gives you a kind of best practice base to build on.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a huge help for jumping into Drupal e-commerce. Now, on a more critical note, the Drupal Association update on Drupal 7. 2 months after its official end of life. This is super important info, right? For anyone still on D7.
Absolutely crucial, yeah.
What's the main message they need to hear?
The main message is urgency. End of life means no more official security updates, no maintenance from the community for D7 core or modules, staying on it. Well, it leaves your site wide open to security risks. Serious ones.
Nice.
So the DA's update is almost certainly stressing the need to migrate. Now, plan it, do it. Move to a supported version, Drupal 9, 10, whatever's current. It's about protecting your site, your data, your users, and those other mentions in the newsletter about free D7 audits or paid support options. Those are vital lifelines for people in that situation.
Okay, yeah. Definitely can't stick your head in the sand on that one. Moving on. MetaDrop introduced the Content First module. The name itself suggests a certain philosophy, doesn't it?
It does.
What's the core idea behind Content First, and how would a module like this help?
So Content First is basically about prioritizing your content strategy right at the start. Before you get bogged down into design details or the technical build.
Plan the message first.
Essentially, yeah. The idea is your site's structure, its functionality, it should all be driven by the actual content it needs to deliver. So a module like this, it probably gives you tools within Drupal to help define your content types, map out relationships between content, set up workflows, all early on. It often leads to more user-focused sites, more effective ones, because you built the container around the information, not the other way around.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Focus on the what before the how it looks. Okay, SpecBee's article on schema markup and its SEO impact during migrations. It seems pretty niche, but potentially vital.
Very vital, yeah.
What exactly is schema markup, and why is it so critical during a site migration?
Okay, schema markup. Think of it as extra code, hidden labels you add to your website's HTML. These labels help search engines like Google understand your content much better. It gives context. Is this an event, a product, a review?
Gotcha.
And that helps search engines show those nice, rich snippets in results, star ratings, event times, prices, that kind of thing.
Right, the eye-catching bits.
Exactly. So SpecBee's article is likely warning that when you migrate, you have to make sure that markup comes across correctly to the new site or gets implemented properly there. If you lose it or mess it up, you could lose those rich snippets, and your search rankings might even drop because the search engines suddenly don't understand your pages as well.
Ooh, okay. So it's about making sure the search engines aren't confused after the move. That's important.
Hugely important for visibility.
And finally, in this perspective section, the Drop Times published an ultimate list of contributed modules by functionality. That just sounds like it highlights the sheer flexibility of Drupal. Right?
Oh, absolutely. That vast library of contributed modules. It's one of Drupal's superpowers, really. These are all the add-ons the community builds and shares. They offer just a huge range of features you can plug into your site, usually without writing code from scratch. So an ultimate list by function. That's an amazing resource. Shows what's possible, helps you find the right tool for whatever job you need done.
Yeah, really underscores the power of that community and all the ready-made solutions out there. Okay, let's quickly touch on new releases. A few new versions popped up. Anything stand out to you?
Well, for developers, the DDev update, including XHY for profiling, that's nice, helps them track down performance issues locally.
Okay.
EXA removal 1.0.0, that sounds useful for privacy. Stripping metadata from images automatically.
Good point.
The GraphQL module update is significant too. GraphQL is becoming more popular for, decoupled or headless Drupal setups, lets apps fetch data efficiently. And HTMX is a cool library for adding dynamic stuff with less JavaScript complexity. The others look like standard updates, keeping things ticking over.
Lots of ongoing work then, which is always good to see.
Definitely.
And in the other noteworthy items, just a few quick hits that give a broader feel. Job listings on jobsdrupal.org suggests a healthy market.
Yeah, indicates demand for Drupal skills. Always a good sign for the platform's health.
And the mention of Talkin' Drupal, #495 live from DrupalCon. That highlights the community chatter, right? Other ways to engage beyond just reading articles.
Totally. Podcasts, blogs, forums, lots of ways the community shares info and discusses things. It's very active.
The Morph tutorial on dynamic color palettes points to resources for making sites look good.
Yeah, empowering users to customize and improve the visual design. Useful stuff.
And the note about sponsoring the Weekly Drop itself shows how these resources get supported.
It's that ecosystem again, people supporting the things that help the community.
And finally, those crucial reminders again about a free audit from Optacy and Tag One's post-EOL support for Drupal 7.
Absolutely. Actionable help for people needing to deal with D7. Really important they see those.
Well, that was quite the tour through the latest The Weekly Drop. It's really impressive how much is constantly happening in the Drupal space.
It never stands still for long.
So just to recap for everyone listening, you've now got a solid overview of recent core changes, the buzz from DrupalCon Atlanta, some interesting community perspectives, and a peek at new tools and resources, hopefully a clearer picture of what's important right now.
Absolutely. And, thinking about all this, the pace of development, things like ImageX on the horizon, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? It prompts a question, maybe for you listening. Looking ahead, what capabilities do you think are going to be most critical for content management systems? What features or advancements seem essential for the next few years?
Ooh, that's a great question to chew on. And hey, if anything we talked about today sparked your interest, maybe it's that Drupal 7 migration urgency, or the possibilities of headless with GraphQL, or that content-first idea, definitely dive deeper. Explore those areas that resonated. There's always more to learn.
Okay, we're done. To close off this podcast, I just wanted to remind you that this brief was a fully AI-generated summary, and we take no credit for the original content. If you want to learn more, then check out the source. This podcast is produced by the team at Drupal Forge. Drupal Forge is the new #1 open-source development and hosting platform. It has all the functionality of the expensive platforms, but at very affordable prices. If you're looking for a new hosting provider, contact us for a demo before you get locked in. And if you like this podcast, hit subscribe, post a link on social media, and recommend it to 2 friends. That's it. See you next time. Bye for now.